Hello, welcome. My name is Michelle Lowe, based in New York, Agarist. I'm also hosting a weekly virtual artist interview with the artists in the Golden Door exhibition. Golden Door exhibition is on view currently until January in the Silvermine Arts Center. Silvermine Arts Center is located in New Canaan, Connecticut. The exhibition tells the story of becoming American and being American by 11 artists originally from different parts of the world. Today, we're talking with two artists in Midwest, Narami Raja, who currently is in Milwaukee, and Lois Bielefeld, also you're in Chicago, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so the two of you team together and making the work that is being selected for the Golden Door exhibition. A little bit background about both artists. Narami was born in India but spent some time in South Korea and Hong Kong before immigrated to United States. I believe you also spent some time in East Coast before settled in Middle West. And Narami is an interdisciplinary artist working in drawings, sculptures, video performance, and installation. Lois is a native Milwaukee and moved to Chicago. Lois also is a photographer, worked with various medias. And I think both of you are interested in explore the identity, the notion of identity and place and belongings. So I wanted to also, share the screen so we can see the works that show in Golden Mine. And also I want to ask you guys a question to begin with our conversation. How did you find each other?
Well, we both know of each other's works, and I admire Lois's photo work. And when I had the idea for a collaborative project, which required a photographer that had a very firm understanding of the Midwest, and so I reached out to Lois with an email proposal. And we met.
And how long have you been working together now?
We started officially, Nirmal reached out to me in February of 2017 with that initial proposal. And then, so to put it in context, it was right after the election, and there was a massive shakeup of this country. And then we started embarking on the project in June of 2017. And we finished photographing a year later in August of 2018, but continued working together on other, audio works and video works for another probably 6 months.
So let me show the works that is in the exhibition. Can you see the screen? Yes, tell us about this. We're very familiar with this setting. You're talking about you guys start working together after the last election. Now we just had another election, so this holds a very special meaning for everybody. Tell us about how do you start doing this project, and also the costume you're wearing, the sari.
Did you want to go first, Lois?
Yeah, so the series is called Reaching Through 5.5 Yards, 8,497 miles. And we basically started collaborating together, thinking about the sari as this cultural marker and thinking about our visual understanding of race. And we decided that Nirmal would perform in Milwaukee, in basically all different spaces in Milwaukee, the mundane, downtown, and then spaces of institutional power, such as thinking about the Women's March, spaces of faith, and then in private spaces. So this exploration of Milwaukee, that it could be a stand-in for any city. But very much so we see her performing in these spaces while I'm documenting her movements.
Nirmal, tell us more about, since Lois mentioned the Sally, tell us a little bit more about the story of Sally.
Yes, so as you know, it's the most important garment in India, and it's given as a gift to a lot of people. It has a lot of cultural and religious significance. And I happen to have almost 200 saris that I almost never wear. And I was opening up these 2 suitcases because we had just moved into a condo. And that was also during the time right after the elections. And I was kind of feeling very alienated and did not feel like I have a good understanding of Milwaukee. And so this idea of using the garment as an act of asserting difference while occupying different spaces in Milwaukee it came about. And so the sari is authentic to me, but the project, the underlying concept of this project is also that visually we have an understanding of others very instantaneously when we see somebody dressed in a different garment. So that's how, for example, in this image, which is at the Sikh temple of Wisconsin, there was a shooting by a white supremacist when 6 people were killed and several injured. So this misguided, racist and xenophobic attitude towards people who look different was what propelled the project.
And since you mentioned that, when you wear the sari in the crowd, and these people have this different reaction to it, I'm curious to see, from here to from both of you, when you're doing the shooting, what's people's reaction, and in different places do they react differently? I think the temple and on the street. And these are all very different spaces that host different meanings to the audiences.
Yeah, I would say the project for both of us, I think there was a lot of anxiety in making this work. I think we just really weren't sure what the reactions would be. And for me, I think just working without consent, because when I photograph, usually my work is very staged. It's very I have permission from everyone. So this was very uncomfortable to make work, documenting a performance that isn't necessarily documenting because it is an orchestrated performance. But yeah, I think there's they're pushing against this idea of documentary photography, and yet we couldn't control how people would react or how people respond. And for the most part, it actually was pleasantly surprising. Like, I think in general, people saw the camera and they understood that something was being orchestrated, so we did not come into any conflict, but it definitely was uncomfortable, and I think we leaned into each other through that in the work.
Yeah, I think for me it was also very uncomfortable, especially in the beginning, because I had never really included my physical self in my artwork. So doing this could not have been possible without having a partner to lean on. And the reactions of others, like you were talking about, varied from different places. So even within these 3 pictures that you have up here, the first one is downtown Milwaukee, And it was in a very open space, and most people didn't even realize that Lois was on the other side of the bridge taking this image. And so people, you can see that girl looking back and wondering what I was doing. People, for the most part, couldn't make sense of what exactly was going on. Most people who noticed complimented the beauty of the garment rather than anything else. But then you move to a different space, like the baseball stadium in Miller Park, or and then I had a completely different vibe of you can kind of sense the energy in the space that's around you, and I was definitely more uncomfortable there. But you have this space near the courthouse where the Women's March had happened. And this was just such an empowering experience for both of us, where, and this image really articulates intersectional feminism, because we often think about feminism in a very, Western American-centric way, but we often forget what feminisms can be and the different kinds of feminism that intersects with race and place can happen. And so this took on an additional richness, where Lois, would you agree that it's like everybody was just cheering for seeing that kind of intersectionality happen in front of
I just want to add, that's a very interesting point what you're making, that feminism has also, it's not only one voice. There's many different voices in it, which apply to many other movements I feel that's happening, currently. This one, I feel that's particularly tension to me when I look at it. How do you feel about when you're taking this photo?
Yeah, for me, this was an incredible moment for me to be able to just experience. And I'd never been into a Sikh temple, and I was, not only invited into this space where there's this, everyone has a meal after worship, and comes together in this sharing of food and family and time together. But also I was, able to witness and experience the actual worshiping in the temple space. So that was an incredible exchange for me, and the space for just, learning and then understanding also the charge of the what had happened here, and how that lingering on. There is 2 bullet holes that are just outside of the main space of worship, and that they have left for remembrance, and seeing that was really intense. So
I think
yes, please go ahead.
I think also the tension, you had mentioned tension, and that brings to that reminds me to talk about gaze, and how both of us in the editing process, gaze was such a defining factor in what we both agreed that it should be part of the final image and not. And out of the 3 images in the exhibition, this is the one that addresses the camera, and what that says is perhaps different from the other 2.
And also, I think, Nirmal, like you touch on gaze, but it also thinking about this active looking, this, that we all partake in on a daily basis, and then the role of photography within that. So there's the gaze of the camera, onto the scene, onto Nirmal, creating the subject. And then there's, the gaze that's happening depending on, where Nirmal's looking back or into the scene. And then the final gaze is through the viewer.
Mm-hmm. This is, I feel we have so much to talk about. And unfortunately, we cannot pack everything into this short interview. I do want to ask both of you, consider the pandemic, the collaborative work, probably present a very challenging factor. So how do you guys working together? Do you have plans for the near future for different projects? Tell us about that.
Well, for the most part, the two bodies of work that we collaborated on have come to an end, but we collaborate on exhibitions, getting this work out there, trying to figure out the best ways to make sure that people get to see it. But we're also hoping to continue our work doing audio interviews for a different project, and that's technologically possible with exercising social distance, and distance doesn't really matter for that.
But can you still go out to the street and to shooting in the recent time?
We completed photographing in 2018, but I think for me personally, I'm still photographing. It has completely changed my projects and my practice and who I'm photographing, absolutely. But I think, we regularly are connecting via Zoom. Sometimes we've gone on outdoor walks together when I'm in town, and are continuing the conversations, I think, that are really essential to, getting the work out there, as Nirmal mentioned. But also just how it's, this conversation and how it's still working within our own practices.
Great. I'm very much looking forward to see the exhibition, to see your work. I'm planning to go to Golden Door in the Silvermine tomorrow. So I'll take some photos for you guys. On that note, I wanted to say thank you to both of you, and thank you to our audience who tuned in. Please come back next week where I will be speaking with a different artist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.